Welcome to NuttieBuddie Sports. Previewing the Green Bay Packers.
Okay, well, speaking of which, are you ready to talk about the Packers?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Okay. So let's talk about your Green Bay Packers. Chris, for you, what is the biggest question that you have for the Green Bay Packers?
My biggest question will be, are any of these receivers gonna make any real difference at all? I like Allen Lazard, but
I don't.
He's pegged in as wide receiver one, no question about it. The thing is the dude had Devontae Adams across from him. Devontae Adams safeties shifting over to his side of the field. He's getting all the attention, leaving Allen Lazard on an island by himself. Now, Devontae Adams is gone. Will this guy, who was a practice squad receiver until Aaron Rodgers made him into something, will he be able to stand alone on his own? And, and I have my doubts. I would love for it to happen. We'll see. Same with the receivers in general. Cobb, I love Cobb. He's been with the Packers forever. He's there because he's buddies with Rodgers. If he didn't have a personal connection with Rodgers, he would not be on the team.
Correct.
He had like 400, 500 yards last season, something like that. Had a hard time staying healthy. Sammy Watkins, good receiver. We'll see how much he has left in the tank. Hasn't really played in preseason, so he's a question mark. And then you have a whole bunch of rookies and practice squad guys. So they're probably one of the worst receiver groups in the league, which is quite something to put on Aaron Rodgers' plate when he's winding down his career with the Packers. To be like, all right, make these guys into something. I suspect, Rodgers will get his numbers and whatnot, but it's going to be interesting to see how functional the passing offense is. I would suspect the first several games are going to be pretty dicey.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think that's the biggest question is the skill position players. Obviously, the running backs are fine, but it's everything else. So let me ask you this. Who do you think had more receiving yards the last 2 years, Allen Lazard or Sammy Watkins?
I'm going to go, just due to him being healthy and Watkins wasn't, I'm going to say Lazard had more receiving yards.
Yeah, correct. Now, did Lazard have over or under 500 yards receiving?
He had over. I think he had like 600 or 700, somewhere in there.
No, 513.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you were still right, though.
Yeah.
Okay. Point is, not a real strong track record for the Green Bay Packers wide receivers. I am not a fan of Lazard. I feel like if he would be a good wide receiver, the way that wide receivers develop in this league, it like Jamar Chase, like these receivers explode out of nowhere, right? Like if he hasn't had it by now, chances are he's just not good. Now maybe I'm wrong. Okay. Now with that being said, I got to read this. Because Sammy Watkins had 391, I think, receiving yards last year, 394, and the year before that, 421. He's always in, he also has a handful of injuries, but I found this point on Clutch. It's called clutchpoints.com, and it talked about the three best Packer additions this offseason. Sammy Watkins was number one. And this is what it says. It says this wide receiver group needed a veteran wide receiver. Sammy Watkins immediately fills that hole. As Watkins heads into the ninth season, he has proven himself to be one of the game's most reliable receivers. The last time he had 1,000 yards receiving was in 2015.
Yeah. I don't know if reliable is the right word.
Well, Exactly. Either that or he might be the most reliable receiver on the package, which is also sad in comparison. So I don't know. I'm not excited about that's the big question really is, are these skilled position players going to step up? Are the rookies going to step up? Is Aaron Rodgers going to get the help he needs? And I'm with you when you said basically that we'll have to wait and see, especially like the first couple of weeks, because that might be a little rough. We might get to relax again, RELAX, speech again.
Well, yeah, and the Packers, I'd have to bring up their exact schedule. They have a really tough opening slate of games, so I guess when we get into predictions, but I fully expect them to struggle to start the season. Maybe, oh no, they play Tampa Bay week 3. Maybe that's why I'm just already sweating that game.
So you got Vikings week 1, week 2, you got
Bears. That's a win.
That's a win. And then you got the Buccaneers.
Yeah. So 1 and 2 is pretty likely in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about our favorite offseason move that the Packers made. I almost called you Zach. Chris, what was your favorite offseason move that the Green Bay Packers made?
Well, the number one move they made had nothing to do with the player. It was signing Rich Bisaccia to be the special teams coordinator, because as we all know, the special teams has been a dumpster fire for going on, 10 years, maybe longer, and directly cost them the game against San Francisco. So hiring Rich Bisaccia, who has head coaching experience and is a tough guy, I think, from what I've been hearing out of camp. He gets in people's faces and he demands excellence. Remains to be seen, how, a lot of special teams success really comes down to the talent level or your depth, if you will, because it is just all third and fourth stringers. But Amari Rodgers had a 50, 60-yard return in the preseason game against San Francisco. Haven't seen that in a long time. But things stay the same at the game Friday night against the Saints. The Packers scored, and then they immediately gave up like a 50-yard return, which is a pretty regular occurrence for them. But I think if anything's going to make a huge impact, because most of their offseason was spent re-signing guys they already had. They didn't really go out and sign too many players from the outside. Mm-hmm. So I would say Rich Bisaccia was the best offseason move.
Yeah, if he can get that special teams from like 32 to 20, like that'd be great. Like for every Packer fan, that'd be great. For me, I just had the focus that they put on the defense, especially in the draft. Not that I thought their defense was a problem last year. I thought it was pretty good, but adding the young players like Wyatt and Walker, that was 2 first-round picks. I think that was good, although I still feel like they should have probably traded up for one of the premier wide receivers. Also going after Dobbs and Watson for wide receiver. To replace Adams was also smart. Although right now it doesn't sound like Christian Watson is having the best training camp right now. So, but regardless, they drafted a guy in the 2nd round and I think the 4th round. So good for them for trying to replace Devontae Adams other than just reliable Sammy Watkins.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, Watson had an off-season knee procedure, and that's all the details that were given. They just said he had a procedure. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. He's fine. But he just got into camp last week, I believe, as he finally got activated off the PUP or whatever it would be. He was in uniform Friday night in the preseason game, but he actually didn't get into the game. So I don't know if he'll be ready week 1. So I would say it's pretty clear Dobbs has kind of stole his shine in preseason and training camp so far. Everyone was kind of ready to dubbed Dobbs the next superstar pretty early on. And then, he's had some rookie growing pains watching the first 2 preseason games. He's had a couple drops, some bad routes. So he's definitely not a polished product yet, but he's got good potential.
Yeah, so he was out playing Watson though, right? In the offseason.
Well, Watson hasn't done anything yet though, is my point. Is he just got activated like last Wednesday or Thursday or something. So
was he part of the spring activities or no?
As far as I know, no.
Okay.
Because he had some sort of knee surgery. Just like I said, they haven't even said what it was, just that it was keeping him sidelined.
Yeah, I guess I was listening to a podcast and it made it sound like that Dobbs was outshining Watson at some point. So they must have not understood that he had a knee procedure. So anyway. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, then that ain't super bad. Maybe when he gets healthy, he'll be, like 100%. And I thought it was much worse than I was led to believe it was much worse than what it actually was.
No.
Okay, let's talk about our least favorite offseason move. What is your least favorite offseason move for the Green Bay Packers, Chris?
I wouldn't have anything that I outright was like displeased with. Just going back to the draft, I didn't, we'll see what happens. I know their plan is to strengthen their defense for years to come, and they're focusing on defense. But I felt like drafting an inside linebacker and a defensive tackle was adding on to a position of strength that they already had. There were a handful of receivers that got picked in the first round. And, again, Watson and Dobbs, we'll see. There were a lot of good wide receivers out there in the first round. They had they had 2 first rounders to play with. Gutekunst said, we had 6 wide receivers graded as first round receivers, and they were all gone by the time we picked, to which I say that's why you use your second one and you jump up and get one if you really like him. Obviously, there were none they felt were good enough to trade up and get. I would feel a little better, what do I know? But maybe instead of drafting a number 2 inside linebacker when you have Devondre Campbell, who just made an all-pro team, inside linebackers are not the most, important position really in today's NFL.
Correct.
Maybe you go up and get one of these blue chip receivers like Dotson or who's the guy on the Saints that just Olavi.
That's I always
maybe someone like that. There were a handful. Garrett Wilson,
London,
James
Drake
Williams,
London, yeah.
Maybe one of those guys. And then maybe draft defense. Again, not a least favorite move, but just it would be a little different from what they did.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I'm gonna hit this one hard. I did not like them trading Davante Adams. I don't like, and I talked about this with the AJ Brown trade with the Titans as well. I don't like when teams create a hole when you don't have depth. You create a hole and then you use draft picks to fill that hole. Because if those, like, even if they would have traded up for a wide receiver, which I completely agree with you, they should have done that. I know, like, wait and see, but it's like, what are the chances? What are the chances that one of the 2 that they drafted are going to be able to produce even 50% of what Adams does? You know what I'm saying? And it's So when you create a hole, what you want and you replace him with a young guy, you'd be lucky if you would have traded up in the draft and let's say got Drake London, right? Let's say they got him. Can he be 80% of Davante Adams? Maybe, but that's what you're hoping, right? Like, you don't know. And it's not like the receiver position was full of a bunch of great players and they're like, we can afford to lose him. So I'm sorry. I know they got a lot for him. I know that Adams didn't want to stay too. He kind of wanted to go play with Derek Carr, but I don't like that move. That's my least favorite offseason move. Not only the fact that you traded Davante Adams, but then you had to use the resources to your resources to draft wide receiver. And so now we're in this situation, like you said, at the top of this, the Packer part of the podcast, where it's like, should Aaron Rodgers be having to deal with all these rookie players at his age? Shouldn't he have more reliable targets around him? And, I don't know.
Well, and the thing is that historically, this goes back to McCarthy. So I don't want to say, McCarthy's offenses and LaFleur's offense are the same, but historically it takes a good 2 to 3 years for a wide receiver to work their way into the Packers rotation. And I don't know if that just has to do with chemistry with Rodgers or learning the offense, but all these guys, Devontae, Jordy Nelson, James Jones, even Randall Cobb took a couple years. They don't do a whole lot their first couple seasons.
Correct.
So again, when you pretty much have to win a Super Bowl this year, which we'll talk about in a second, but you have to win a Super Bowl this year, maybe next year, but I wouldn't count on it as far as Rodgers being there. And now you have a bunch of guys that historically probably won't produce very much this season. It's kind of a tough situation.
I don't know, man. I don't know. So let's talk about that Super Bowl. What will make the Packers season a success or a failure?
I don't want to be too greedy and say win the Super Bowl, because I don't think they're the best team in the league or anything, but they have to get to the Super Bowl. If they lose in the championship game, it's a disaster. And it is what it is. Rodgers has to get there.
Yeah, I just don't see how, because so this past year, I mean, I guess obviously if their special teams would have played better, they're moving on from San Francisco. But I would say that their pass catching options are a lot worse than they were last year. I think most people would agree with that as of right now, as what we know. And that now you're going to go try to survive 3 rounds of the playoffs without that, a dynamic offense. I just don't see it, but I'm with you. This might be the last year with Rodgers. Maybe it's next year, who knows? But yeah, it's not looking good for me personally for the Packers, but yeah, it's Super Bowl or bust as far as getting there.
Yeah. The thing is that I would say, again, the NFC is pretty top heavy, but I don't want to give away the game for maybe future episodes, but the Buccaneers, they're going to do what they're going to do. They have a terrible division that they're going to run away with. So they're going to have a top 3 seed. They're going to have a home game, probably in round 2. Brady, is he going to hang on forever? Is he even going to play? Who even knows? I'm going to assume that he does. And, they'll get 11, 12 wins and they'll be there. The Rams should be probably the favorite, but, how often does a team repeat getting, back-to-back Super Bowls? The odds are against it. So it's kind of like, well, the Packers should be able to sneak into that void. The defense might be the best in the league. So, I mean, will that carry them there? They could. If they're smart, instead of you get to these January games in Lambeau and you want to air it out and it doesn't work so well because it's 10 degrees outside and snowing, maybe we just pound the run this time. Maybe we have a little bit different philosophy this year where we're not going to get Aaron Rodgers 40 touchdowns. Maybe we're going to play ball control and just play smothering defense. Or maybe certain guys on defense overperformed last year and they're going to come back to earth this season. That's also very possible.
Well, and think about it. The 49ers offensively only scored 6 points or something like that, right? Like they didn't score a whole lot in the game you lost.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I always think like offense wins regular season and then defense wins playoffs. My question right now, which is funny, with a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, but my question is that offense going to be able to win where you're in the top 4 teams in the playoffs? Because that's the first step. And if it takes a little bit for the chemistry to develop, how long is that going to take? And is that already going to put them too far behind the 8 ball when it comes to the other teams in the conference?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Any other additional questions for the Packers that you have?
I don't think really. I guess the big one would be right now. Actually, yes, I do have a question. Will Bakhtiari play? That's a big question. He got activated this week, but then they're like, well, we're not going to practice him on back-to-back days. So, that doesn't sound good.
Yeah, and that's another concern, right? The offensive line for the Packers is a concern too. So, yeah. Do you think if the Packers don't make the Super Bowl that this is Rodgers' last year as a Packer? Because you kind of, yeah.
The Jordan Love hype train is gaining steam by each playoff game or preseason game.
He looked bad the one that I watched.
Yeah, the San Francisco game, I didn't think such. The New Orleans game, I will say, maybe I'm sure TB was probably better, but just watching him in person, like the dude has made some like total dimes, but then like he had a drive where he made like incredible throws the whole drive, and then the whole next one he was like throwing at people's feet. So he's still really inconsistent, but would I say if he started this year he would be a top flight starter? No. Would he be in the middle range? Very possibly. Just
I don't know.
16 to 20, I could see that on the high end. Maybe that's being a little optimistic, but I think, as to answer your question, if they don't do anything this year, then they're gonna say yes, Love is ready, and just whatever happens with Rodgers. But I think this is it.
Yeah, green and gold glasses you have on for Jordan Love. I can see it. Oh man, you bought in. If he could play like Davis Mills his first season, I'd be optimistic. Yeah. Mills had a good year last year.
Yeah,
so.
I agree.
Yeah. So anyway, that'd be good for me. Okay. So I found the website. I found 11 wins over under for the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
What do you got?
Originally I said 11-6, and that didn't seem quite right. So I have them at 12-5.
Okay, so you got over. Okay. I have them under. I think they're going to finish 10-7 this year. That's what I have for them. So.
Yeah. Okay, going back to what I said earlier about their early record. So I do have them at 1-2, and then the fourth game against the Patriots is at home, so I think they will win that, but that's kind of a tough game. And then after week 7 and 8 is on the road. At Washington and at Buffalo. And Washington, I think, is a little bit of a trap game. They always kind of struggle in Washington for whatever reason. And then I think Buffalo is the best team in the league, so they're going to lose that. So I have them after 8 games, I have them 4-4, and then the schedule gets a little bit easier as they go along. But I think that the first half of the season is going to be pretty tough.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to see, but I think they definitely can beat the Bears. So they got that going for them. And maybe if they lose to the Vikings, the Bears game isn't even going to be close, because they'll be upset. Okay. Yeah. Thanks so much for watching this clip of NuttieBuddie Sports. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you'd like to listen to the rest of the podcast, click on one of the links down below. And if you want to give us your thoughts on any team in any division, let us know in the comments down below. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Thanks so much for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we will talk to you guys soon.